أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. From Ayah 228 of Surah Al-Baqarah. والمطلقات يتربصن بأنفسهن ثلاثة قروء ولا يحل لهن أن يكتمن ما خلق الله في أرحامهن ولا يحل لهن أن يكتمن ما خلق الله في أرحامهن إن كن يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وبعولتهن أحق بردهن في ذلك إن أرادوا إصلاحا ولهن مثل الذي عليهن بالمعروف وللرجال عليهن درجة والله عزيز حكيم صدق الله العظيم. So coming back to what we are continuing our discussion from the previous weeks, we're in the midst of speaking about the addresses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the believers in Surah Al-Baqarah. And if we go over the recap so many times of Surah Al-Baqarah, that the first half is first initially speaking to mankind collectively, and then after that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He addresses the Bani Israel and talks about their ill deeds and their misdeeds, and there are 21 or 22 of those usul that you could pull out and bring in your life. And after that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins to speak to the believers. And again, this is all based upon shukr, because the first misdeed of the Bani Israel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned was their lack of shukr and appreciation, them not accepting that this was a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the bounty of iman, the bounty of being made the favored servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you're given that status, you'll act upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do. But the Bani Israel, they viewed it as a burden. So وَمَنْ يُبَدِّلْ نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ, whoever changes the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into something else, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's strict in His punishment. And why do people do this? زُينَ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا وَيَسْخَرُونَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. It's due to the love of the dunya. But then after that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He begins to speak to the believers. Believers are those who appreciate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving them this deen, so they say that I'm going to act upon everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. So what are some of the ahkam that we have spoken about so far? And this is just from the ayah wa ilahukum ilahu wahid, maybe the third page of the second juz. And right now we still have over 1/4 left of the second juz left. So just in that, what have we talked about? Starting from ayah 163. We've spoken so far about tawheed, eating halal, not concealing deen and not selling our deen, the abwabul bir, qisas, wasiya, meaning the bequest that you leave at the time of death, fasting, not gaining wealth through haram means, how bribery is forbidden, jihad, umrah and hajj, what to focus on and avoid in dua. Then ayahs 204 to 206, no fasad. Number 15, being willing to give up everything for the pleasure of Allah. 16, enter into Islam completely, ayah 210. Then be prepared to deal with whatever hardship comes your ways, spending on parents, relatives, orphans, the poor and travelers, in that order. Jihad revisited, gambling, alcohol, small scale spending to support the community, treatment of orphans, overarching islah, and we're going to speak more about this today. Marrying a non-Muslim, I repeated that twice. Okay, marrying a non-Muslim, marital relations during menstruation, and what acts are allowed in marital relations. All of these things, and then after that, oaths and ilah, which we talked about oaths and we talked about ilah last week. Ilah is an oath that a person makes to not have marital relations with their spouse for 4 months or more. And now today we're going to speak about talaq. So this is 30 things. And there's still many more ahkam to come in this surah. That's why about this surah, Ibn Arabi rahimahullah ta'ala, not Ibn Arabi the Sufi, him also rahimahullah ta'ala, great arif of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not him, speaking about Ibn Arabi al-Maliki, the great faqih, the scholar from Spain, what he said is that in this surah, Surah al-Baqarah, there's 1,000 orders and 1,000 prohibitions. So in reading that, sometimes we talk about, how are all of these things in Surah Baqarah? But haven't we talked about so many other things? We've talked about the political system, we've talked about evolution, we've talked about this, we've talked about so many different things have come up just dhimnan in this surah. About our mu'ashara, about weddings, desi weddings, all of these things happen to come up, right? In this surah. So there's so much ilm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in this surah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who can, inshallah, understand this surah. Okay? So now, if you want to see the summary, you could go check the YouTube channel and look from the last week. The summary of the surah we had at the beginning, but let's jump into it today. So last week, what did we talk about? We talked about ilah. This week, we're talking about a few things. Talaq ba'in, talaq raj'i, iddah. So talaq ba'in and raj'i, that's more like next week, the triple talaq issue. More this week, we'll speak about talaq raj'i, and we'll talk about iddah. And the other question that we'll try to answer, inshallah, is why does a husband have a one-way right to maintain the marriage in a talaq raj'i situation? Why is it that a woman can't get a divorce, first of all? She can't just file for divorce Islamically, right? That right belongs to the husband. And this is something that, we should ask and we should be able to answer, because non-Muslims, they ask this. Muslims ask this, right? And also, why does the husband have the right in a talaq raj'i to take the wife back even without her consent, meaning maintain the marriage? So these are things that we need to understand. So now coming up from this point now, or actually starting from last week, moving forward to Ayah 242. So this week we're discussing Ayah 228 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Ayah 2, up until Ayah 242, four umur intizamiya, meaning things that are used to just add structure and organization to our lives, right? Intizam means organization, right? Are going to be mentioned. What are they? Talaq, iddah, rida'a, and marriage. Rida'a meaning breastfeeding. So talaq, divorce, iddah, which is the waiting period after a divorce, rida'a, breastfeeding, and marriage. All of these are going to be mentioned from Ayah 226 all the way to 242. The summary of all of these, the overarching principle that we're given, is to have islah, to do things, trying to set things aright, trying to avoid fasad and corruption, trying to keep everything right and give everybody their rights, even when it's wrong. Even when things are going wrong, you still have to give everybody your rights. This is the summary of this. So we could say as much as possible there should be islah, but in a marriage, in relationships, in that marital relationship. But if it's not possible, Islam allows divorce. After a divorce, a woman can't just get remarried. She must undergo a waiting period. And then after that, you can't stop her from getting remarried. Like it used to happen in the time of Jahiliyyah, like it happens in Hindu culture, like even how many a time in Muslim cultures, or cultures that are Muslim, what happens is they discourage a woman getting remarried. The Quran tells us don't do that. They want to get remarried, they get remarried. Okay? But at the same time, don't neglect your children. You have to look at their upbringing. The ayah speaks specifically about rada'ah. They speak about breastfeeding the child. But if you really think about it, breastfeeding the child, giving the child milk, this is the core of their development, right? Now you see, the evolutionary mindset, right, is that mankind is constantly improving and we're always getting better and things are changing. To the point that 40, 50 years ago, what did they used to say? That breastfeeding, it's zulm on the mother. The better thing for a child is to give formula. And when they started to give formula to the children, that same generation is running the country now, right? But anyway, we see that after a while they said, no, the best thing that a child can have is their mother's own milk, right? Science has said this as well, right? So the Quran talks about it at that time, that the person who should give the child the milk, if they're able to, if they can come to an agreement, is the mother, even in the case of a divorce. But who should pay the mother for the service? The father should. Because at the end of the day, the father are the responsibility of the children, right? But the mother is the one that can provide the best care. So you see, even in the divorce, there should be some congeniality. There should be civil communication between the sides. Why? Because it's for the good of the children. Okay, and this is the foundation of tarbiyah, right? Give the child good milk and they develop well. So if Allah gives so much attention to this, would the rest of the tarbiyah of the child be neglected? No. So even if there's a talaq, you have to look for the upbringing and tarbiyah of the child. And in the middle of all of this discussion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions something else. And what is that? And then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions marriage again. Now after this, the woman, she goes ahead and gets married. But in the middle, Allah mentions marriage, then breastfeeding, or breastfeeding, marriage, then in the middle Allah mentions something, then He mentions marriage again. So what is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the middle He mentions salah. Why does He mention salah? Because we're talking about divorce, we're talking about iddah, breastfeeding, and now we're marriage. Why is salah mentioned in the middle? Because salah is something that gives a person strength, something that assists a person, something that helps a person do what it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do. It helps us maintain this islah. So when you have that salah and you gain ihsan through your salah, you're able to do all of these things. You're able to keep cohesiveness and islah in the community. So even if you're not able to be united in marriage, you're still able to be united as Muslims. And then we could go and we could face the kuffar. And that's why after all of this, because unity, even in disunity and even with the disillusion of a union, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, even then maintain some semblance of unity, then you could go and you could face the kuffar. So after that, ayahs of jihad are mentioned again, right? And if you look another place in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning laws, right? Allah is mentioning qisas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning wirasa. Then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions jihad. In the middle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions one thing, He mentions fasting. Why does that come in the middle? Again, because fasting is something that gives you the strength to do all of these other things, right? Because sometimes we as Muslims, we think that the ibadah is the maqsood and that's the be all end all. That's our deen, right? Our deen is overarching. It goes into all facets of our life. But if we were to be honest to ourselves, many a time the ibadah is the easiest thing. It's easier for me or you to pray than it is to not backbite someone, than it is to not take advantage of someone that we're easily able to take advantage of, right? So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, flip the picture, look at it. When you're doing your ibadah correctly, this will fall over and spill over into other aspects of your life and allow you to live in the dunya as a Muslim as well. Okay, so that's why sometimes you're reading and why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning salah? Why is He mentioning fasting? Why is He? It doesn't seem to fit here because these things will aid you in doing these other types of things. These other orders that may not seem like deen on the surface. Okay, so now how do we connect the ayahs directly from last week? So a few connections. Number one, the previous ayah last week spoke about ilah. So what is ilah? A husband, they make an oath that they're not going to have relations with their wife for 4 months or more. Now, if the 4 months goes and the husband doesn't have relations, a talaq bayin occurs. According to the Hanafis, according to the other madhahib, the husband at that time will have to make a choice. And if he still goes around and messes around, then the woman will go to the judge will separate them. Okay? So, but if the husband breaks the oath, then what do you say something? Yeah, so according to the Hanafis, if a husband makes an oath to his wife, I'm not going to have marital relations with you for 4 months or forever or something like that. If 4 months passes and he doesn't break this oath by having these relations, then what will happen is, according to the Hanafis, at the 4-month mark, talaq will occur. Talaq ba'in. We'll learn what talaq ba'in is today, inshallah. According to the other mazhabs, at that 4-month mark, now he has to make a choice. Meaning talaq hasn't occurred. Now either keep her or let her go. But if he doesn't do anything, if he keeps wasting time and going this and that and hemming and hawing, the woman can go to the judge and the judge will force him to either keep her or to separate he'll end the marriage. The judge will do that, the qadi. Okay? So now if a talaq bain occurs, but what a husband should do is he should break that oath, give the kafara, and maintain the relationship. So now, however, if the husband goes through with the oath and doesn't break it, then a talaq bain occurs. However, the wife cannot remarry immediately. She has to wait for her iddah to end, and that's why these ayahs today are talking about iddah. The second connection is ila. It spoke about a temporary separation between husband and wife. These ayahs speak about a permanent separation, just talaq. Another connection is in ila, sometimes there's an intention to do ruju, or the man does ruju, he takes his wife back, right? So talaq also has a raj'i component where the wife can be taken back. So that's what's going to be discussed today. So now let's understand a few things about marriage and talaq before we go to the ayahs. Number one, many surahs in the Quran, they discuss marriage and divorce. And remember, we've talked about this and we've touched on this in previous weeks, about why it's relevant that these things are mentioned in the Quran, because then there's not any room for people to, oh, this hadith is da'if, or this hadith is like this like this. No, it's in the Quran, it's this news has reached everybody, the Quran. Okay, so now many surahs in the Quran, they discuss marriage and divorce, but there's 3 surahs that mention divorce in a lot of detail. What are these 3 surahs? Anyone want to take a guess? Surah Baqarah, which we're in, and then Surah Talaq. Nisa, not so much. Mujadala, not so much, just the first part. You say, well, Mujadala, you could say a little bit, but that's a specific type of talaq, right? Zihar. And in Zihar, talaq doesn't occur. Kafara occurs. Surah Ahzab speaks about it a lot as well. Surah Ahzab. Okay? So now, what is the Islamic concept of marriage? Marriage in Islam, it's meant to last. Okay? That's the intention behind it. They say it's a till death do us part agreement. Ideally, in ideal situations, in Islam, you don't get married to get divorced, right? So as Sunnis, what do we say? That this muta is haram, right? So marriage is, the intention of it is for it to last. So ideally, it's till death do us part, right? And up until the time the marriage is finalized, efforts should be made to determine whether or not the man and woman are suitable for and compatible for one another. This should be done. You should do your homework before a marriage. Okay? And as soon as the marriage is contracted, so up until the marriage, do your investigation. Make sure that, inshallah, things will work out. And as soon as the marriage is contracted, what happens? Several rights and responsibilities come on both sides. Rights and responsibilities. Keep this in mind. So you could say, حقوق zimedari, right? Rights, responsibilities. وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ, right? Okay. And if these rights and responsibilities both are fulfilled, inshallah, we will be blessed with a happy married life. Okay? Over here, I'm going to add one disclaimer though. We know the rights and responsibilities of marriage, or we could talk about them. But at the same time, marriage, it is like there's some give and take, right? If you just say, these are my rights, these are your responsibilities, it's going to be very, very difficult. Okay? One of my friends, when he was getting married, Kashif? Yeah, Kashif. So at his wedding, Mufti Nawal Rahman, he did the nikah. So he said one thing. So he said Hyderabad, but insert Karachi. Insert, what country are you from originally? Libya. Insert Tripoli. Insert Sudan. Okay? Mali. Right? Insert whatever country. He said that marriage is like the traffic in Hyderabad or any country. It's a country, do people follow laws in Karachi traffic? If you say that it's a red light, I'm going to take it, that's how it's going to work. It's a red light, it's my right of way. What's going to happen if you do that? It's my right of way, so I'm going to go. You're going to get in a crash, right? Well, there's a red light, you need to stop right now, but you're going now. What are you going to do? Do you want to crash to cause? No. So he said that it's not like American traffic, it's like traffic in foreign countries. That's how marriage is. There's rules, there's regulations, but there's a lot of give and take that has to be done. Does that accurately describe Mali's traffic as well? Right. Libya traffic as well?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. But anyway, ideally, if we fulfill these rights and regulations, right, rules and responsibilities, inshallah, there'll be happiness in the marriage. But unfortunately, even when all of that is done, sometimes the marriage doesn't work. So in cases like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He allows the marriage to be ended rather than living in a life of misery. And this is another demonstration of Islam's balance, what it has compared to other religions. Like the Catholic faith, right? They don't allow divorce. Now they go ahead and they get it, right? But before, divorce wasn't allowed. It would have to be annulled by a priest. You see in the Hindu culture, what happens with a woman, and if her husband dies, or if there's a divorce, etc. There's not a concept of that, right? Islam encourages the marriage to remain, but at the same time it doesn't torture a person. And you see, when two people, when it doesn't work out between them, but you leave them together, that's when changes come to the faith. So now the Catholics, they just go ahead and they say, yeah, we're just going to get divorced. It doesn't matter. Meaning they acknowledge their faith doesn't allow it, but they say, no, we're going to go ahead, or we're going to do this and this and this and do this type of ta'wil and change our faith, right? Whereas when the faith itself, when the laws are coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's wisdom in there so that there's not a need to go and manipulate the faith over time. Whereas if it's a man-made laws, what happens is it's not based upon hikmah, it's based upon foolishness, and it's going to force people to go ahead and live up to something that's unrealistic, so that they have to either live a life of misery, or they have to go ahead and they have to say our faith doesn't make sense, and it causes them to lose faith, or they say we're just going to ignore our faith, it's not practical anymore, right? But again, keep this in mind. The purpose of marriage is what? That it works. Divorce is allowed, but there's deterrence to divorce. One of these deterrents we're going to talk about today. And what this means is that if things can be worked out, if islah can be had, we should. The hadith in Abu Dawud and Ibn Majah is أَبْغَضُ الْحَلَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ الطَّلَاقِ, that the least or the most hated halal thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning it's permissible. What is it? It's talaq. It's allowed, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like it. As much as you can, try to make it work. We'll talk a lot about this I guess you could say Surah Nisa also does. Surah Nisa, somebody said Surah Nisa. You say Surah Nisa, it also talks about talaq as well, right? It talks a lot about, not about the talaq itself, but it talks about trying to work things out, coming to an agreement, avoiding talaq. You can say Surah Nisa talks a lot about that. Okay, so now what are the types of talaq? Okay, does anybody know the two types? Yes, talaq raj'i and talaq ba'in. Okay, so talaq raj'i, this is given with sarih, clear words. Like you say, like a word like talaqtu, or talaq, or I divorce you. Okay, these are clear words of talaq. When this occurs, when this happens, with or without intention, because there's no joking in talaq, there's no joking in marriage, right? In the words of these things. If a person says it, automatically one talaq raj'i begins, right? You get 2 strikes, meaning that if this happens, if a person uses clear words to say talaq, whatever, they could say it in English, Urdu, Arabic, French, any language, they go ahead and they say it, right? They say it in clear words, talaq raj'i occurs. Immediately a woman's waiting period begins. How long is the waiting period? That's a major source of ikhtilaf, right? But the iddah begins, the waiting period, that begins, okay? But in this time, were you saying something? Did you raise your hand to say something? No. Okay, so then in this time, if the husband decides to take the wife back, to do ruju', to return to her, then what happens? There's no new nikah that's needed. He could just either verbally say, I take you back, or if they touch one another with love or something that demonstrates that things are okay, ruju' has occurred. Okay, so it could be qawli or it could be amali. Through words or through action, you could take them back, and you have 2 chances to do this, right? Meaning 1 talaq raj'i, 2 talaq raj'i occurs, okay? Then talaq ba'in, this is a talaq that's given with ambiguous words. Like for example, get out of here, go to your parents' house, I set you free, right? These are different things. These words, they're ambiguous. So talaq only occurs when they're given with the intention of talaq, right? So I'll give another example. Let's say if somebody said to their wife, it sounds weird in English, but this example is given in Arabic, right? But they say, you're like my mother, okay? They can mean it could mean two things. It could mean you're like my mother in that you're haram upon me for marriage. If a person says it with that intention, it would be like zihar, but a talaq would have occurred, okay? Or a person can mean it by saying that I respect you the way that I respect my mother. Or you know how some people, they say about their wife, when their wife becomes older, oh, she's become like a mother to me, in the sense how she takes care of the husband, right? So if it's said with that intention over there, no talaq has occurred, because there's no ill intent, or there's no intent of a talaq. But when a person says these words, and it does happen, the cases we've dealt with, right? It happens, a person in anger, they say these words with the intention of talaq, over there talaq bain occurs. In talaq bain, there's still an iddah, there's a waiting period. But now the man cannot unilaterally take back the wife. What he has to do at that time is a new nikah has to be done. Meaning she has to give her consent to remarry. Otherwise she has to wait her 3 months and then she'll leave. Okay? But the faida, one of the benefits of having this iddah period is that in that iddah period, even though a new nikah has to occur, the man has he has an opportunity without any other proposals coming to try to make things right if he wants it to. Okay? The other thing is when 3 talaq occurs, it doesn't matter if it's 3 talaq raj'i. I'm not talking about at one time right now. That's a different discussion. We're talking over time. That okay, talaq raj'i occurs 5 years ago. Then the second talaq raj'i occurs 3 years ago. And then the third talaq raj'i occurs today. Right? Or talaq bain occurs, sometime, then they reconcile, then another talaq bain, and then another talaq bain. Or some mix of the two, right? When you get to 3 talaq at that time, then halala needs to occur. And what halala is that they cannot get remarried until the woman gets married to another man and consummates the marriage. And if they happen to get divorced, then she can come back to the first husband. We'll talk about that more next week. There's wisdom in there as well, right? And it's a lot of protection for the woman in that. And inshallah, we'll talk about saying talaq 3 times at once as well. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. I have a feeling that's going to go a couple of weeks, right? And over here, no fatwa is given. Okay, so if you're going to ask, please don't tell me about people, their situation. In this 3 talaq masala, usually most of the time, you say just call somebody else, right? Because there's difference of opinion, and whatever opinion you hold about it, it's wallahu alam. Alright, now anyways, let's move on to iddah and its type. So what is iddah? Does anyone know? I said waiting period, but what is it a waiting period for? But what does a woman have to? In menstruation, non-menstruation, but what is she waiting for? Right. Basically, the reason, these are the wisdoms that you're given for babies, etc. Right? But iddah, basically, it's the amount of time a woman has to wait till she's eligible to remarry. She can't remarry before that, right? So the iddah is going to vary based on the reason that her marriage ended. Okay? So the what iddah itself is, it's a waiting period. And a waiting period for what? A waiting period until a woman can get remarried. But there's wisdoms behind it. And the iddah, the amount of time, it's going to vary based on the reasons that her marriage ended and her own personal circumstances. So if a woman is pregnant at the time of divorce or at the time of the death of her husband, the iddah will be 3 quru. What is quru? It's gonna come. Number 2, if a menstruating woman is divorced by her husband, is divorced and she's menstruating and she's divorced, her iddah is 3 quru. Okay? Sorry, the first time I made a mistake. If a woman is pregnant at the time of divorce or death of her husband, the iddah is going to be when the child is delivered. When the child is delivered. So it doesn't matter whether her husband died, it doesn't matter if she was divorced, right? Her iddah is if she's pregnant, then the iddah is going to be the time when the child is delivered. Number 2, if a menstruating woman is divorced by her husband, iddah is 3 quru. If a menopausal woman is divorced by her husband, meaning she doesn't get her cycles, then her iddah is going to be 90 days. If a woman's husband dies and she's not pregnant, her iddah is 4 months and 10 days. And if a woman is divorced before she and her husband had khalwa sahiha, meaning that they weren't isolated, with enough time to consummate the marriage, meaning nobody else was there, there's no iddah at all. And this happens sometimes. The people, they're in different countries and they get married through a wakil or something, and for whatever reason a divorce occurs, there's no iddah needed. Okay? Now, there's two purposes of the iddah. So when the woman is divorced, she must wait again for these 3 quru to happen. So what are the wisdoms? The first wisdom is what you guys said, to ensure that the woman is not pregnant, because the preservation of lineage, this is a distinguishing feature of mankind, and it's especially a distinguishing feature of Islam. There was a conference about, 50 years ago or so, right? This occurred in the 1960s in Europe, where they had different, Muslim scholars come from around the world to Europe, and there were also Orientalists there as well. So one professor, he had a presentation in which he said that Islam is oppressing women. And he said the reason, the proof that Islam is unequal and it oppresses women is that women, they need to wear hijab and they need to cover up, and men, they don't need to. So then an Egyptian professor, he responded, or this question answers, whatever, in the seminar. So he said that I agree that it's not fair, that women have to do hijab and men don't have to do hijab. All I can say is that, unlike you, Muslims, we want to make sure that our children are ours. And that's all he said, right? And nobody could object to that. Because preservation of lineage, this is a human instinct. This is a human desire, but we see in this day and age, Muslims are particular about it, and we see Christians have no concept of it anymore. Okay? So number one is to ensure that women is not that a woman is not pregnant. And in terms of lineage, there's a hadith in Bukhari in which Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says the worst of lies is for a man to claim lineage from someone other than his father, to say knowingly that this person is my father when they're not your father, or that a person says that I saw a dream and they really didn't see this dream, or to say that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said something and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam actuality didn't say that. These are the 3 worst types of lies. So this lineage is something very important. That's why on the Day of Judgment we'll be called by our fathers' names, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call us by the names of our fathers on the Day of Judgment as well. This is important. Our lineage, where we came from. Extremely important. But now the question is, why are 3 quru needed? Why are 3? Quru can mean 2 things. It can mean tuhur, meaning a period of purity, or it could be a menstrual cycle, right? Why are 3 needed? This could be accomplished with 1. We'll know that the woman is pregnant. The reason is because we said that there's 2 wisdoms. The second wisdom of the iddah is to give the man an opportunity to try to make amends, to try to make things right. And for this, you need to have a little bit of extra time, okay? Keep in mind one thing. When a talaq is given, it must be given when the woman is not menstruating, when the woman is in the halat of tuhur, meaning she's not menstruating at that time, and it has to be in a phase of tuhur in which no marital relations have taken place, right? If it's already happened and a person gives a talaq at that time, it's a major sin. It's a big sin to do that, okay? And this is all teaching us, all of these laws are teaching us, it's not a rash decision, right? This is the worst word you can say. This is what I tell people all the time. People come and say, I said this to my wife, I said that to my wife, I said this, I said that. It's like, look, this is a word, take it out of your vocabulary. Why do we need to say talaq? You're upset, you say talaq 3 times. Why? Somebody, they came to me and they said, I said talaq to my wife 3 times. I get 3 more chances. It's not a cat that you get 9 lives, okay? This is not any good thing. It's not any good thing. Why do you have to say this all of a sudden, right? Say something else. If you're angry, try not to say something. If you need to say something, why did you do this? What are you doing? This is not a emotional decision. And as we see, because divorce, who has the haqq of it? It's the man. One of the reason is that a man is supposed to be more composed and less emotional than a woman, right? So now, if a man is, that's the first word that we use, take the word out of your vocabulary. Even if you say a curse word, that's better than saying this word. Because even if you say a curse word, if you say this or that, you can make up for that. When you say this word, you're cutting at the foundation of a marriage, right? So anyways, the main opportunity or the main reason for this is that a man, he needs to be given an opportunity to try to make amends. But again, this word should not be said. Say it with, really think about it before. People, they come and ask about all sorts of things. People, they ask Imam Ihsan about cars. They ask me about this, that. Somebody, they said, I'm going to open a business. Can you make istikhara and make dua and advise me to open the business? What do I know about your business? Okay, I'll make dua that it's successful, right? People come and make dua, come and ask for advice before their kids get married, before their kids go to college. It's all fine and good. I'm not criticizing. But if you're coming to a case like this, to talaq, come and get advice at that time too. Because a scholar can tell you how to give a talaq too, in such a way that there's room for reconciliation left, right? So anyway, the second purpose of the iddah is so that the talaq raj'i, it means that it's to make amends. Now talaq raj'i, it can be done unilaterally, and a talaq ba'in, the man still has the opportunity to propose and do a new nikah, and nobody else can propose at that time. Now here's the objection, famous objection. A wedding is based on what? On mutual consent. So why is ruju' in talaq raj'i, meaning taking the woman back, a unilateral decision belonging to the husband? Both of them had to agree to enter the marriage. So why is the husband allowed to give talaq? So why does only the husband have the right of talaq? And why can he take her back without the choice? So you have to understand two things here. Number one, men and women, they're equal in Islam. But Islam's concept of equality and the modern concept of equality, they're two different things. Okay? The modern concept of equality is based only on rights. You're able to do this, so I should be able to do this. You're able to vote, I should be able to vote. No, voting, yeah, it's a right. I mean, that's not a good example. Okay, you have this job, I should have this job. A man is the imam, so a woman should be the imam. A man is leading Jummah, a woman should lead Jummah. A man gives divorce, a woman gives divorce. I have the right to be whatever gender I want, right? All of these things. This is what we're talking about. I have the right to do this, I have the right to do this, I have the right, I can do this, I should be able to do this. This is the modern conception of rights, okay, of equality. But Islam's equality is not based just on rights. Rather, it's based on an exchange between rights and responsibilities. So Islam, when we talk about equality in Islam, it's not just rights. I'm able to do this. I'm able to do this. I have to do this. So wherever there's a right in Islam, there's a responsibility that's coming in opposition to it. Meaning there's an exchange of rights and responsibilities. That's what equality is. So in Islam, at the end of the day, you're going to be taken care of. Your balance is going to be the same. Both sides are going to have rights on their side, and both are going to have responsibilities on their side. That's what Islamic equality is, as opposed to modern equality. It's not just about what you can do. It's also about what you have to do. Forget what I can do or what I'm able to do. What do you have to do for somebody else? Okay? Now, in order for our domestic life to succeed, along with that, right? So both husband and wife, they have certain rights and both have certain responsibilities. And the second thing that we have to understand is, for our domestic life to succeed, for our masajid, for everything to succeed. So if it works for everything else, it has to work in our domestic life as well. For our marriages and our households to succeed, one person needs to be the amir. The final decision has to go with somebody. And if the amir's word is final and those under the amir, they accept that, then the home will be a Jannah. But again, just because he's the amir doesn't mean that he's a king. It means that he or she, I'm just saying theoretically, they have a lot of responsibilities. Mufti Muhammad Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala, his son Mufti Taqi wrote a very nice book called Akabir Deoband Kya The, and it's been translated to English. A very nice translation as well, called The Scholars of the Deoband Seminary. So in there he speaks about his teachers, his father, mostly it's about his father and stories he heard from his father. So his father said that they had a teacher named Maulana I'zaz Ali. If anybody has said, you studied Quduri? So in Quduri, when you have the Indian script, the Hashia in Quduri is always written by Maulana I'zaz Ali. That's the one that they put, okay? So Maulana I'zaz Ali, one time he was like, students, they loved him. My teacher was also a student of Maulana I'zaz Ali. And he said this man was born to teach. That's all he did. He had no other interests except for reading and teaching. He's like the other teachers in Deoband, they would read the newspaper, they would talk, they would joke. This man in his free time, he'd just read, right? But anyway, so Maulana I'zaz Ali, one time he went with them on a trip, with the students. The students, they liked him a lot. The Hazrat, come with us, it's our vacation, let's go somewhere for a trip. So in there, he said that, guys, you know that when there's a group of 3 people, when there's a group of people, we need to appoint someone as Amir. So let's appoint someone as an Amir. So they said, you're our teacher, Hazrat, you're the Amir, of course. So he said, okay, you know that you have to obey the Amir, whatever the Amir says you have to. He said, yes. So now they said, yeah, we agree. So then when they got to their train stop, he began to unload the bags. They began to take their own bags. He said, no, I'm the Amir, I say you can't take your bags. I'm going to carry everyone's bag. When they went to eat, he began to pay. Everybody else tried to pay. No, I'm the Amir, I say I have to pay. So the Amir, they should take care of everybody else, right? It's not just about I'm the king, I'm the man, I'm everything. Okay? If this happens, it'll be a Jannah. Now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His wisdom has made men the Amir of the household, to object against this is to object against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom. Okay? And as a result of making man the Amir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only given the right of divorce to them. But why do I say right? Because in reality, divorce is not a right. Divorce, it's an emergency exit. You know, like when a truck is going on the highway and all of a sudden it goes out of control, right? There's emergency exits. But are the emergency exits put haphazardly here, there, everywhere? No. They're put in strategic places where the truck can come off of the road, where it can gather itself, where further damage is not going to be caused. It's put strategically. So divorce, it's not any right, it's not something that's just a choice. It's not like a regular exit. It's an emergency exit that you have on the side of the road for trucks. It's like that, okay? And where are they placed? In strategic places. So men, Allah says the strategic place would be to give the right of divorce, this emergency exit, is the man, not the woman. Now women, they also have a recourse. And what is that? They can go to the qadi. And I'll add one more thing. Khula, right? When a woman says, "Main khula lungi, I'm gonna get khula, I'm gonna get khula." Khula it's not a female divorce, right? Khula is an agreement. That's what people, they have this wrong concept. They say, oh, yeah, you're not going to give a divorce, well, I'll get khula. Khula means that the woman says, okay, I will give you such and such, then you go ahead and you divorce me. Khula is going to come, inshallah, maybe next week or in a few weeks anyway. So now also, keep in mind one other thing. In talaq raj'i, the previous nikah is still intact, right? It hasn't really broken. So the woman's consent was already given. So the man doesn't have to get the consent again. This is another reason, okay? So this is something that we can explain. The other thing is what is meant by 3 quru. Qar'un is from adad. Adad means words. A word that has 2 meanings and the meanings are opposite. So according to the scholars of Lugha, if you want, you can read here. The scholars of Lugha, what they say is that Qar'un can mean both tuhur, meaning a period of non-menstruation, or it can mean a menstrual cycle. It can mean both. So now the question is, which meaning is the Quran? When the Quran says that the iddah is salasa quru, 3 quru, what do we say? Is it tuhur or is it hayd? So Imam Shafi'i and I believe Imam Malik, because Imam Malik's not written here, but everybody else is written. So I'm thinking Imam Malik is with Imam Shafi'i on this. They say that it's 3 periods of tuhur. This is what the iddah needs to be. Whereas the Hanafis, and along with the Hanafis, where do they take this from? The Khulafai Rashidin, Ali radiyallahu anhu, Umar radiyallahu anhu, Ibn Mas'ud, Sa'id bin Jubair, Ibn Abbas, Abu Musa radiyallahu anhu, and many others, they all say that it means 3 hayd, 3 cycles of menstruation. This is what the iddah needs to be. As far as tuhur, Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, Aisha radiyallahu anha, Zayd bin Thabit radiyallahu anhu, they all say that it's tuhur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have said it very clearly. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not say it clearly, very beautifully over here. Allama Zafar Ahmad Usmani rahimahullah ta'ala, he writes, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَبَيَّنَ طَرِيقَهَا وَأَوْضَحَ تَحْقِيقَهَا وَلَكِنَّهُ وَكَّلَ درك البيان إلى اجتهاد العلماء واستنباط الفقهاء ليظهر فضل المعرفة في الدرجات الموعود بالرفع فيها. What does that mean? It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have made it very clear. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. The people that are given knowledge, they have a special level. So sometimes in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, prove your worth, prove you have this level. Use your ilm to get to the bottom of a masala, to figure out something, right? This is the tahqiq of the ulama. This is from the time of the Sahaba. There's, if you want, I have recordings. I teach this class on the weekend, speaking all about fiqh, how fiqh developed, usul-e-fiqh, why the mazhabs are not bad, how all of them are right at the end of the day, but why, what the concept of fiqh, etc. was in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Very interesting. That not every Sahaba was qualified to be a faqih. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam made certain Sahabas, he trained them for this job, right? Because they had this ability to do istinbat, to get to the bottom of masail. So if anyone is interested, ask me, I'll give you the recordings inshallah for that at another time. So now anyways, the reason that most of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, they said that it means 3 cycle is because Rasulullah ﷺ, in his words, in ahadith, when he used the word qar'un, it referred to hayd. It referred to menstruation. The hadith in Abu Dawood, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam tells a woman, In ataka qar'aka fala tusalli. Right? That when your qar comes, don't pray. So why would Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam tell a woman that when you're in a cycle, or when you're in purity, don't pray? Obviously it means hayd. It means that menstruation. فَإِذَا مَرَّ قَرْءُكَ فَتَطَهِّرِي ثُمَّ صَلَّى. And when your qar ends, then go and purify yourself, do ghusl, ثُمَّ صَلَّى. Right? Then go ahead and pray. مَا بَيْنَ الْقَرْءِ إِلَى الْقَرْءِ. Between the 2 qars. So all of this is referring to hayd. This hadith is in Abu Dawood, it's in Nasa'i as well. So Rasulullah ﷺ used the word to refer to hayd. That's why majority of them, the scholars, they say it refers to hayd. So Imam Ahmad, Imam Abu Hanifa, and all of these Sahabas and all, their opinion is that Salasa Quru means 3 cycles of hayd. That's what the Iddah would be. Another reason is, I don't want to get too much into the usul of it, but it allows for the number 3 to be acted upon fully. Okay, and I could explain that later. If you're interested, come and ask me. Now let's get to the ayah itself. وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء. Divorced women must wait for 3 quru. So according to the majority, wait for 3 menstrual cycles to pass. So the talaq has to be given in a state of tuhur. After that tuhur ends, 1 cycle occurs, then tuhur again, then a 2nd cycle, then tuhur again, then a 3rd cycle. When the 3rd cycle ends, then the iddah is over. So divorced women, they must wait for 3 quru before remarrying. وَلَا يَحِلُّ لَهُنَّ أَن يَكْتُمْنَ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ فِي أَرْحَامِهِنَّ. It's not lawful for them to conceal what Allah has created in their wombs. Now what does this mean? What Allah created in their wombs? What does it mean? Hiding. It's not lawful for them to hide what Allah has created in their arham, in their womb. So what is it referring to?
Abortion. They cannot kill that baby.
No. Meaning basically, it's an ayah is talking about talaq, right? So he said, don't tell the husband that you're not pregnant. So right? But it doesn't just mean, people always think it means just pregnancy. It also means hayd, because hayd also comes in the raham, right? So don't hide what's there. Like don't tell your husband that hayd hasn't happened, etc. Tell him exactly what's going on, so he knows. وَلَا يَحِلُّ لَهُنَّ أَن يَكْتُمْنَ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ فِي أَرْحَامِهِنَّ. So whether it's hamal, meaning a child, pregnancy, or hayd, it's blood, you have to be transparent in this process. And now who will be transparent? إِن كُنَّ يُؤْمِنَّ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. If they believe in Allah in the last day. If you believe in Allah in the last day, you'll be honest. The woman will be honest over here. Despite the difficulties that are incurred, they'll obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commandment. And by doing this, by being honest, it'll allow the lineage to be, it will allow for the lineage to be preserved, and also it'll allow that the marriage is halal. Okay, وَبُعُولَتُهُنَّ أَحَقُّ بِرَدِّهِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ إِنْ أَرَادُوا إِصْلَاحًا. Their husbands are more entitled. One translation is more entitled. Another is would do better to take them back during this period. Meaning the husband has the right to do that. Take them back in this period. If it's talaq raj'i, without their consent. Providing that they wish to put things right. So over here Allah is saying, if you want, in aradu islaha, if the husband is not trying to play with the woman's life, really he feels we can make it work, then go ahead and take her back. You have this right to do so. But Allah adds this, in aradu islaha, if you mean to do good by her, not to make her life a game, kal mu'allaqa, just make her hang around and take her back and make it into. That's why Islam has this 3 divorce concept. Don't make it a game. Don't play with a woman's life. Okay? After this, islah, when Allah says, وَإِنْ أَرَادُوا إِصْلَاحًا, but islah is only possible when both sides' rights and responsibilities are seen to. So the next thing Allah says, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, wives have rights similar to their obligations. So la over here means rights. And alayhinna, ala means responsibility. This is on me. وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, according to what is recognized to be fair. So ma'ruf, this comes from urf. This is something we need to look at as well. Not every law is going to be the same in every place. You have to look at the place that you're living. Right? So for example, I had to deal with, this is not being streamed today, so that's why I'm talking more freely. I had to deal with some case, right? So just recently, so then the man was outraged that the woman went outside of the house, meaning in burqa, in niqab, everything, she stepped outside of the apartment building. He said कि तू मेरे घर के बाहर नहीं जा सकते, बाहर गए तो मैं पाँव तोड़ दूंगा और ये वो. I told him, look man, yeah, you could say that's the right. The woman can't leave the house without the husband's consent. Fine. But that's not how it is over here. If you do that, and now you've taken away her phone too, and you say you can't use the phone, you can't do this, you're just going to stay in my house, do whatever you want in my house, but there's nothing here, and don't you dare step outside. What type of life is that? She's going to see everybody else. The husband, usually they say, okay, come, go, pick up kids, do whatever you need to do it. So you have to use you have to look at the place that you're living in. You can't make it like life, in 1900 India, Pakistan, right? You have to see how generally people, conservative people who are like you in background, everything, how they're living, give that much leeway. That's what needs to be done. Remember, give and take, like the traffic, okay? Now, just like wives have responsibility, they have rights as well, and these need to be given to them. And both husband and wife, they need to fulfill their responsibilities in their own realm of duty and not try to overstep their bounds. So you see this push that's going on in the society now, where there's like a women need to be in charge. Women are the backbone of this party and that party and the moral conscience. There's a lot of Freudian psychology going on over there. Okay, there's a lot of things over there. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the rights, those are the rights. And Islam gives great rights and status to women. Allah says, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that treat them kindly, treat them nobly, deal with them in a good manner. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. In the Quran, Allah says, treat your wives in a noble and equitable manner. If they didn't matter, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why would He say this in the Quran? Okay? وَلِلْرِجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةً, but husbands have a degree of right over them. So with more responsibilities, with husbands have more responsibilities, comes more decision power. Here's a nazir. Remember there's 2 words. Misal is one word. Misal is a word that means full, complete example. Nazir means some similarity. So here's a nazir. How many countries are there in the world? 200 or so countries in the world. Out of all of those countries, how many have veto power? How many sit on the UN Security Council? 5 of them. The US, UK, France, I don't know why France is there, right? But they haven't won a war in so many years. But UK, France, US, Russia, China. So there's the entire world. The entire world can be saying one thing. But because these countries, they have greater power and perceived responsibility, they also have greater veto power. They also have a few rights. This is an example of marriage and marital rights as well. Right? وَلِلْرِجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةً, Allah has given men 1 daraja because of their responsibilities. Wallahu azizun hakim, but Allah is most wise, most mighty and most wise. Meaning, if despite this daraja and responsibility Allah has given you, if you use it in order to do zulm and oppression, Allah is aziz, Allah is mighty, Allah can take you to task, Allah can destroy you. right? And Allah is Hakim. So this is to the answer. Again, if a person says, no, but why? Why do men have this right? Allah is Hakim. Allah has wisdom. So go ahead and you could question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand this. And it was a bit long-winded, but I felt it's a topic that, these objections come again and again. So we need to try to get to the bottom of this and be able to understand it and explain it in a manner that will make sense to others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.